hey, it's morning. You know what? It's all good. And honestly, the chaotic energy is what we need, especially to talk about this kind of crazy show that was so much fun. But hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. And welcome to another review here of a post show breakdown at VC WrestlePod. And the Ring Rats and Riot Acts are finally back. And this time, it's not just me reviewing a Defy Wrestling event. Of course, I am Mikey El Jefe of BC WrestlePod. And joining me to review Defy's Aeon is, of course, my new friend, compadre. You know, you can find him on the AEW and wherever else, and Mystery Wrestling, and wherever he jumps into, because this man is a man of many talents. Mr. Benny, aka the Picnic Basket Joneses.
Greetings and salutations. Let's rock and roll, Mikey.
Absolutely. Of course, Defy, after taking a bit of a brief hiatus during the summer and earlier the year, has announced a couple of shows. I mean, they finally uploaded Wraith, and I'm like, how dare they? I was so mad when you texted me that. I was just like, oh, what the heck?
Right.
I was like, prepare yourselves. But with all that out of the way, let's get into this. So again, I love covering Defy Wrestling because technically it's not in my backyard, but it's in my coastal backyard because, of course, Aeon is taking place from, of course, the historic Washington Hall up in the Pacific Northwest. And this was a really, really fun show. I cannot wait for everything. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's just jump into it because, again, we have our card plus an unannounced match that we're going to talk about, which has me super excited. But let's just kick things off. We opened up Aeon with a singles match. Of course, this is one half of the Defy Tag Team Champions, and of course, over in TNA known as Sinner and Saint, we have Travis Williams taking on the legendary Jack Evans. And then as soon as I saw this on the card, I'm like, I've missed you, Jack. The Lucha Underground days and the early AEW Dark and Elevation days too.
In Wrestling Society X from 2007.
For reals. It was really, really nice to see Jack Evans. It's been a hot minute since I've seen him on my wrestling screen in any capacity, but man, the crowd loves Jack Evans and they hate Travis Williams, but that dynamic definitely fits for their characters and who's the face and the heel dynamic. I thought this was a fun opener. Again, I think this match set out to do what it needed to, which was, hey, this is the first match of the night, so let's get the crowd energy going up, and then we will move our way into some other matches. I thought this was a really, really fun one, and again, as someone who's been watching Defy all this year, I love that we're continuing to tell the through line with the Sovereign, which includes Travis Williams, Judas Icarus, who we're going to talk about later in the show, as well as their, stable mate, Ethan Rivers, who we're also going to talk about a little bit later, who tech kind of helped Travis Williams pick up the dub here in this one. But I enjoyed this match. It was really fun. Again, I like Jack Evans. I like Travis Williams. I definitely think this set the tone for the rest of the night. But Benny, what did you think of our opening bout for Defy Aeon?
This was a really fun one. It's always great to see Jack Evans. Like, it's weird to me that he hasn't changed his gears since AEW Dark. But like Travis Williams, I've seen several times over the past few years. But to be completely honest, like, even as I was writing it in my notes, Travis Williams and Hot Sauce Tracy Williams, I always get mixed up for some reason. It's nothing to do with them. But this was a really fun opening match. And now that you say that the guy that helped distract Jack Evans at the end, they're a stable, that makes a lot more sense. But even as somebody who hasn't been watching it closely, I could tell that there was something going on there. So I really liked the distraction avalanche brainbuster. That was insane. This was a really fun opening match.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But yeah, this is a lot of fun. And again, we will be talking about the other members of the Sovereign as we go on through this bout. So again, Travis Williams picks up the victory over Jack Evans, and that we get to move on to our next bout, which of course this was just as chaotic too, especially at the end. So we get a women's tag team match next up, which sees the team of Amira and Liza Hall taking on the team of Anna Beretta and Danica, who I am familiar with for her previous appearances here in Defy. I will say, I have to make sure and I have to keep reminding myself because I was just like, Amira, I was like, is this Michael Oku's Amira? And then I was just like, okay, no, completely different one. Because I was just like, I know that one wrestles too, but I was just like, wait a minute, they're not the same person, correct? And then I was like, no, okay, I'm right. I'm not losing my mind here. I thought this was a fun tag team bout. Again, anytime we get more women's wrestling anywhere is fantastic. And we didn't just get one, we got two. But this was just a fun tag team match. And I think the chemistry was there. I think it was really, really good. And, Amira and, Liza pick up the victory here. Betty, how did you feel about this tag team match?
This was really fun. I really like seeing new wrestlers I don't really know all that well. For in this case, it was three of the four. Amira, I'm pretty accustomed. I know pretty well, and I also agree she's really standing out right now in this women's division. And her trip to Japan, she took a trip to Japan like a couple months ago, and you can really tell that it's really paying off for her. Like she is a plug-in and play ready player on any roster. And Liza had a really good hot tag in this. I'm always a sucker for a good hot tag, and I'm also a sucker for a good heel turn. So at the end of the match, turned on everybody after Nicole Matthews, the great Nicole Matthews, showed up. And even though it was in the play-by-play, she still turned on her.
Right. So let's talk about what happened post match, right? So again, Amira and Liza pick up the victory here. Nicole Matthews comes out, and her and Anna and Danica begin beating up on Amira. Liza comes back in to even the odds, and then she turns, and it's a 4-on-1 situation where they all beat up. No, when they beat up on Amira, it's just like, oh, this is gonna be fun. So now we have a 4-woman stable, and I'm just saying. I mean, but when we not to spoil anything when we get to our other women's match, but I was like, the numbers game is still uneven. There's only one person left. I was like, either they bring somebody in, and I don't know if her Defy character, but could you imagine? We'll get there when we get there, though. I'm gonna wait until we get to that match to talk about my thought and my theory. But I really like this tag team match, and again, Amira continues to impress. And I love the fact that you brought up the Japan trip as well, the excursion, if you will, as what we call it in wrestling. And I'm just like, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Amira and honestly more of these girls here in Defy too. Because again, now we're having a more solidified women's, I don't even know if roster is the word, but more recognize the women that are going to constantly be here for these shows. And I love it. And they're amazing. And so, oh man. But we move on from this match and we're going to get into our third one, which was a bit of an unannounced match. We didn't know that we were getting this until we did. But listen, it never in my lifetime as a wrestling fan did I think that within the span of a year, I would never see a wrestler retire and then also see their child make their debut in wrestling in the same, like within that short span of time. So we get this singles match next where we first we get Kieran Gray, who I don't know where he got this coat. I don't know what this character is, but immediately by presentation of the entrance, I was just like, and what his whole shtick getting into the ring, I was just like, oh, I'm here for Kieran. This character is everything. I was just like, I love this character. But he is taking on Stephen Borden, and I was like, oh my god, baby Sting. Oh man, this was wild. I was just like, holy crap, we get to see one of Sting's kids wrestle on my screen in Defy Wrestling to make his indie wrestling debut. And I'm just like, and this was a stellar match too. Holy crap. Because okay, there's a stigma when we get children of wrestlers who get into the business. They're usually looked at with underneath a microscope. And, I feel like people are a little bit harsher on them than they should be. But I was like, all right, you are Sting's child. A lot of different people. So, Steven, how we going to do this? And you know what? Him and Kieran brought a really good match out of each other. This was so good and so solid. I was just like, no notes, claps all around. I really dug this match. We get to see his son independently wrestling debut this year. Like, what a time to be a wrestling fan, honestly.
Seriously. And yeah, I really like the presentation that Kieran had here as well. It looks a little bit like he's been watching some great Muda tapes. And both of these guys are training under Darby Allin. So there was a little bit of I think Darby might have influenced this match in a way, because like halfway through, Kieran takes the belt off and like uses it against Steven.
Hits him with it.
And I think they did just enough Like, it was clear that it was both of their first matches. And I couldn't ask for anything better. It was great. Get that cardio up, boys, though. That's all I'm saying.
100%. And I think that will come with time. But I think for a first outing, I think this was really good for Stephen Borden. Of course, after the match, Kieran gets a cheap shot in before, going to the back. And I kind of want to see more Kieran Gray on Defy because, again, I think the presentation of his character is really, really strong. I think he's really fun and interesting as a heel. And honestly, I'm gonna be completely honest. I feel like if they want to make Stephen Borden like a staple for Defy, I honestly would not be mad if we get to see more of Borden heading forward for Defy Wrestling. And again, like you said, and it makes a lot of sense that, he's here in Defy because of course, Darby is from the Washington area and has a history with Defy as well as a certain Swerve Strickland and Nick. A lot of the crazy people, all the crazy people and the like amazing wrestlers, honestly, in AEW Defy to AEW pipeline just makes a lot of sense. Because literally, we're going to talk about our championship match where we have has come through here. Speedball Mike Bailey had a stint in Defy is Pacific Northwest wrestling at its finest, and where we get a lot of our staples in AEW who hail from the Pacific Northwest as well. But I really like this match. I thought this was a lot of fun. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say was just like this was really good, and just like any live performance, nothing can substitute stage time or in ring time. So the more in ring time that they get, the better they'll be.
100%. And so now we get into what kind of, I would say, closed off the first half of the show because there were a total of 8 matches. And I'm gonna be honest, at first when they, the entrances coming through, I'm like I had to make sure that Triller didn't skip anything. I was like, hold the phone. I was like, what? I was like, Triller, did we skip a couple other matches? And then sure enough, nope. It was right at the money. So we get our Defy World Championship match next, which of course sees the challenger and, Sothera Cody Chun, which I love Cody so much. He and Guillermo are part of one of my favorite tag teams in Defy, known as C4, who we would see come out later in this match, taking on the champion, Brian Keith. And oh my god, I love this match so much. This was my match of the entire card. And that's crazy because none of the matches on this card were like not as great, but holy crap, these two threw down. And this is all I have to say is I need this Brian Keith in AEW, like honestly, because oh my god, they took it to each other.
Yeah, like I love Brian. I hate to say moveset, but he throws a lot of chops and a lot of forearms. But like once he throws that big boot, like things are about to pick up. And I really like that about him. He's very, how do you say, living embodiment of like his moveset is very, very King's Road style. Japanese.
Right. It's also very calculated too, because again, Brian Keith, like you said, he's not a big flashy person in his moveset, but it's very calculated. He does a lot of the chops and that kind of quote unquote breaks down the defenses, and then he picks the right times to, hit that big boot, hit the knee strikes, and then do like more of the power based kind of like types of wrestling moves to make sure the opponent stays down. And honestly, I feel that kind of works against with Cody's style of wrestling too, who is, you're more, I'm going to go to the top rope and hit you with cutters. I'm going to go flying at you. I'm going to try to take you down with, speed. This was a mix of power and speed. And of course, that's one of my favorite kind of wrestling trope dynamics in any match. And I feel that this definitely delivered too. Of course, throughout the match, we would get some shenanigans, of course, where we would have the Sovereign make their way and kind of just like mess around. First Travis Williams going after Cody, and then Judas Icarus going after Brian Keith without the opponent knowing what literally just happened. And you know what? I was just like, where is this going? Because it's not really going the way that it's supposed to. And then sure enough, when we get to the end of this match, I was like, there it is.
Yeah, I thought that they had really they told us a smart story that will probably pay off later on down the road on a different Defy show, which was really fun. And I was doing a little bit of research on Cody Chun, and I guess he and Guillermo were both trained by Buddy Wayne, Nick Wayne's
Mm-hmm.
father, and which I found really neat.
No, which is really good. And again, it makes a lot of sense too, because before coming to AEW, Nick was heavily here in DeFi. And I mean, it's also his hometown too. Literally, he is also a Washington native, just like Darby and Swerve. And so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, and this match was so much fun. We get to the end of this where, after Judas and Judas Icarus and Travis Williams, their shenanigans didn't work. Of course, cue Evan Rivers to come in, and then the whole entire Sovereign begin to attack, which prompts Guillermo to come out to even the odds. And there's a brief moment after the match where Cody and Brian Keith look at each other, and there's just a sign of respect. And I was just like, I get a third one and let there be a definitive finish, because I want to clarify by saying this. I didn't mind the no contest ending, because this is going to be a payoff, because again, C4, Cody and Guillermo have been feuding with the Sovereign over these tag titles, and they've gotten so close but have not gotten the job done. So hopefully this does set up for a tag team rematch between the Sovereign and C4. But I would like to see Cody and Brian Keith go at it one more time and let there be a definitive finish. It's like,
Absolutely.
no, I want more.
I love there was like a few moments where like they did a sequence where like it was like an eye poke for an eye poke. That was pretty fun. And there was a callback to their first one where in the match at Raid, Cody started chopping Brian, which Brian like chopped him down. And then like this time Cody chopped him down, which was sort of like a nice little callback and reversal of that spot. Pretty cool. I like a callback.
Yeah, this was definitely a really fun match. And this was a fun way and a smart way to kind of end this first half of the show. I will say this here. I feel that, after this match, not to say that all the other matches were inherently bad, but I felt that, at least for me, I was looking at my clock. I was just like, this is only like an hour and a half to go. I felt that we rushed a little bit, but even still, even with that rushed feeling, there was still solid wrestling through and through. But so let's just get into that. So we have this championship match to close out the first half of Aeon. And then we open up the second half of Aeon. And this is where we get, I was like, the Pacific Northwest weirdos have arrived, and I am here for it.
Again.
I'm like, listen, sometimes wrestling matches just need to be fun and stupid. And this is right up my alley, because we get this tag team match, right? And so I am very familiar with, well, of course, I'm very familiar with the heel team. Of course, we have Evan Rivers, who is, part of the Sovereign. First and foremost, his entrance gear, I was just like, this is the most like Ziggy Stardust thing I have seen, and I never get tired of seeing him come out in this. I'm just like, this is what happens when you mix like David Bowie with a Space Odyssey and Pan's Labyrinth. I was just like, this is ridiculous. And then there was a moment I was like, hold up, is this man wearing purple contacts? Because I was just like, what is going on? Or if it was just the lighting. And then, of course, Griffin McCoy does a lot of wrestling. I have seen him before in a lot of GCW shows, him and his stupid mustache. And then, of course, Top Guide Time is his thing, which I love. But then the heroes of Defy Wrestling come out. They are my heroes. Mr. Matt Brannigan, who I love, but of course, our lovable weirdo hero, Randy Myers. I'm just like, yes, Beetlejuice, get it. I love Randy so much. He's my favorite character in 2025. I love him so much. He's so fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love this screenshot here where it looks like Mr. Bean as well.
For real. So I was just like, what is happening here? And again, like you brought up, this match was just full of wrestling shenanigans. We had eye pokes, we had low blows, like Randy Myers, quote unquote, did a duck walk. I was like, what is that in this match? Oh man, this was just fun. And I was just like, I love you, Defy. Keep bringing Randy Myers and Matt Brannigan, because I was like, are y'all wearing a muumuu? Like, what are we wearing? A chiffon silk robe? Like, what's that? And the funny thing is we have these characters, and the wrestling was so good though.
Well, they say like you have to know the basics before you can break the rules, right? Like,
right.
I think like Effie's Big Gay Brunch 10 in Las Vegas, like where I first saw Randy Myers, and I was like, who's this guy? And then it was like, he's like I found out he wrestles in the Pacific Northwest, and I was like, okay, I'll check some of that out. And I completely agree. He's definitely one of my favorite find gear. That guy is fantastic. Like, I think the first match I saw was like him versus Danhausen. And I was like, I'm in.
Oh, 100%. No, I
and,
love
and not like in a frat house kind of way.
it's again, it like his appearance, it was just like, oh, okay, he's a wrestler, he got this, he's a drunk wrestler, that's fun. And then when with him and Randy's entrance, what they were wearing during the entrance, I was like, this is giving me like someone's auntie or grandma on like, sipping spiked lemonade on like either a Malibu beach or even like on a porch down in the south. I was just like, this is someone's grandma and auntie right here, but in the form of a male wrestler. I love it.
Like I actually had to pause it for a minute because of the spot where like Matt Brannigan comes out with like a drink with a umbrella in it, and like he pulls out the umbrella and like puts it over his head, and like the guy like pours the drink, like, oh my god, brilliant.
And this was so smart of Defy to have this kind of open up the second half. Of course, shenanigans abound. Evan Rivers and Griffin McCoy win due to a low blow. But I'm just like, yes, Randy and Matt continue to be on my screen. And this was fun all around. And I applaud all four of these boys for doing the thing because this gave me good wrestling, but it also gave me some good laughs.
Yeah.
This was great. So from here, we get into our sixth match, but the second match of the second half. And listen, anybody who has been watching either AEW, when we did Ring of Honor weekly reviews, or even our Defy, y'all know that I love me some Vert Vixen. I think she is fantastic. And then we see her taking on Rebel Kell, and I'm just like, oh, this match was so much fun. And again, even though the running theme is like, oh, we have lots of shenanigans. This is, spoiler alert, this is like the second no contest we get of the night. But again, it's building up to something, and there is going to be a payoff. But before we get into, the girl squad beating down Vert and Rebel, in the match, for what we got, again, I love Vert because she's been popping up everywhere, GCW, AEW, she's just a phenomenal wrestler that I feel like more people need to keep an eye on her. And you know what? This was my first introduction to Rebel Kell, and I liked what I saw too. This was fun. I had a good time with this one. Benny, what did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I always enjoy seeing Vert Vixen. She is probably one of the best wrestlers in ring, or the most polished wrestler in ring of on the independent right now is what I'm trying to say. And Rebel Kell, this was also my first introduction to her. I don't think they had very good chemistry, but this match was really good in spots like chain wrestling and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This was fun. But as you said, went to a no contest because of that damn Nicole Matthews.
Yeah, and I have to agree. I feel that the chemistry definitely was off, but then again, because of what we got at the end, I was like, okay, this match was here just to be a vehicle leading into that. So, like Nicole Matthews and the Girl Squad come in, they beat up on Vert Vixen and Rebel Kell. It is a 2-on-4 situation. And then Amira comes out with the chair to kind of, her and the chair make up two people. So then it's a technical 4-on-4. So I'm pretty sure it's leading to, Nicole Matthews and the squad to take on Vert, Rebel, Amira. But then I was like, okay, they need one more woman to make it even, or to kind of have an even number. And I'm just saying, I don't know if her character in Defy would allow her to, but could you imagine if they were able to, call on Marina to be like, no. I was just like, listen, I don't like these girls either, but you know what? You ain't about to come in my house and like disrespect the women's wrestling here. So I was like, honestly, Marina and Nicole Matthews would be kind of fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie, but it is, yeah, and it is setting up like this 4-on-4 that we might get, before the end of the year or going into next year. And honestly, I'm okay with it because I'm like, hey, that's 8 women right there. You have Marina, who is still the champion as well, who makes it 9 if Marina's not the person to be the 4th on Vert, Rebel, and Amira's team. But I was like, you got more women to be involved in Defy, and I'm never going to say no to it. I'm just saying. But yeah, so this was a lot of fun for sure. Again, this was used to the vehicle for what we got in the end. So now let us get into the semi-main event, which this is where I felt I was like, oh, I blinked and it was kind of over. But honestly, again, I felt like to a certain extent, we are setting up certain things here. So in the semi-main event for Aeon, we have, the other half of our Defy Tag Team Champions in Mr. Judas Icarus taking on Mad Dog Connolly. So I am only familiar with Mad Dog by name and, character reputation, not like actual person reputation. I was just like, oh, this is about to get crazy. And I was just like, to use this phrase, but for the first part of this match, I was like, damn, Mad Dog is kind of dog walking Judas a little. Was like, oh, this is gonna be good. But yeah, I love Judas Icarus. I'm biased. I love him. And was this probably the best match he's had? No, not really. But honestly, I know he's good for it. And so sometimes, I'm okay with this. But I had a good time with this. Again, Mad Dog is newer to me. I know him by name. I haven't really seen him wrestle, but I like presentation and I liked what I saw. And I think this was just a fun back and forth between him and Judas. But yeah, the first part of this match, I was like, damn, Mad Dog is really walking Judas Icarus around this ring.
I like that both of these guys were barefoot, and
It doesn't happen that often.
And then there was one spot where like they're both like very few things in wrestling that makes me wince. That made me wince.
It's like, not the toe. Yeah.
Oh my god. That is gruesome.
I think it's a very interesting thing in terms of like wrestling psychology. It's just like arms and legs, like getting hurt. I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But then watching fingers and toes, I'm like, no, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah, speaking of which, I watched Su Young versus Marina Shafir.
Yes,
great, because I'm a huge Su Young fan.
Same.
And there was one point where like Su Young grabs Marina's toes and like wrenches them upwards just to get out of a submission.
I was like, you do you. We love you for it. That's not for us, but we understand. Listen, I was like, do you see who's reviewing the show right now? I mean, come on now.
Oh
my goodness.
Mad Dog, same thing is I've only heard of him and like seen him around social media and stuff like that. This is my first time watching him, and I was like, wow, I like this guy. And he has a bit of like early Taz in him. Like when Taz was going as the Taz Maniac, like he'd wrestle barefoot and like throw people around. And this match ended weird, but like not weird, but like in an unconventional way that like really made me go, "Oh, that was cool."
Right? I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I've never seen that submission before. So I was like, oh, both these guys did really great and really interesting match.
It definitely was. And Mad Dog did end up beating Judas Icarus, but he couldn't celebrate for long because we had the rest of the Sovereign come out for a beatdown, which then also prompted C4 of, Cody Chun and Guillermo coming out. And, we get 3-on-3 standoff. Mad Dog and C4 have like a mutual understanding. It was like, I'm very interested. We are building towards something, and I'm excited to see where that goes. I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. I cannot wait to see where we go from here. But let's get into it because we have our main event of DEFY AEON. And like, right? So, you know what? I will say this, for the shenanigans that we got in this match, though, I was like, this was a really good match. And honestly, at least within recent memory, this is like the most like true balance back and forth match for me personally. I was like, wow, this is really strong. And honestly, it really could have gone either way. But in the main event, of course, we have Midnight Heat, who I love Midnight Heat because they are so old school, like 80s heels. It's just like, oh, they're ridiculous. I love them. I mean, look at their ring gear and colors. My personal favorite tag teams in recent memory, The Righteous. And I was just like, God, I've missed you boys so damn much. Yeah. I was just like, Vincent and Dutch, man, I have missed you guys so much. And listen, Midnight Heat is great at doing what they do, but y'all know this crowd was so here for the Righteous. Like, we all are at some point, but this was really solid. I really enjoyed this match, and I thought this was a really solid and fun main event and yeah, this was just good. Shenanigans, wrestling, like, this was everything that I could have wanted, and this delivered and, met my expectations, and it just put a smile on my face. And I think that's because I like Midnight Heat as a team, but I've also really loved The Righteous, and it just made me smile. And sometimes that is just enough for me to like be like, this match was fun and really good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love both of these teams, and the Midnight Heat are like FTR, like they're like a parody of FTR, like, and their finishing move called backstab is the type of pun that's right up my alley. As far as The Righteous goes, like, it's always great to see him. Like, I'm really sad it never really panned out, but damn if they didn't try.
Right. And here's the thing that they got to do in Ring of Honor, I've thoroughly enjoyed. you know, from when they had Stu Grayson in their faction for a little bit. With I still hold that, you know, fight without honor match between the Righteous and Stu Grayson versus Dark Order is still probably one of my favorites of the early rebranded ROH, which was
Definitely.
also, you know, a little bit after the trilogy we got with the FTR and Briscoes. And then, you know what, even last year at Final Battle, I really enjoyed the match they had with Dustin and Sammy for the tag titles too. And
And I even
so
like the Lance Archer stuff. Like
a
it didn't
hundred
pan out.
percent.
Like they just had a great dynamic, you know. So,
Hmm.
like, but to be fair, Dutch should be the big man in the group. So because like there was a spot in this where like I think what is his name? The guy with the straps, like Eddie Pearl, hot stuff
Hmm.
Eddie Pearl, and he's like nose to chest with Dutch, and he starts taking down the straps, and then Dutch takes down the straps, so he puts the straps back on. Pretty funny little spot. But like, you know, I think they got everything, you know, they got the sillies out at the beginning. And then
Hmm.
we had like a regular old school wrestling match after that. And it's great, it's just great to see the Righteous. I've been a very big fan of his since the Kingdom days. So anytime I get to see him on my screen, it's pretty cool. And hell of a main event.
It really was. And the Righteous do end up beating the Midnight Heat for the victory. Vincent and Dutch go around celebrating with the fans as Defy Aeon, or I like to call it Aeon Chapter 2, goes off the air. I really am happy that Defy Wrestling is part of our rotation because it gives us some really fun matches. And honestly, this has been a really fun year for Defy. Yeah, and then like even back in September, you know, with they rebranded, they got a new logo, and they're like, hey, we got like a bunch of shows coming up. The first Aeon back in September was really solid. I mean, shoot, we got Calvin Takeman versus Killer Cross, which was crazy to watch, and I had a really big fun blast. Wraith was a lot of fun when they actually uploaded it so I can actually watch it. And this Aeon is great, and Defy is looking to do really fun stuff. I mean, GCW is going to be coming up here actually in next week. They will be next week they will be at the historic Washington Hall, so there might be some Defy wrestlers that we get to see fight our GCW folks. And then Defy announced that at the end of the year, they're having 2 more shows, which I was just like, y'all are going nuts. I mean, outside of the next Aeon event for Defy, which is also happening in December, which is going to be a lot of fun. They are ending the year with Aeon on December 27th, and then they just announced that they're going to take a Defy show called Ender to Los Angeles on the 28th. And I'm just like, do I want to go? I'm still trying to figure that out. I was just like, oh, Defy's coming to Los Angeles. This is kind of a quick turnaround, but you know what? Let's see if we can do it. But we'll see what happens. But I was just like, hey, if Defy is going to be coming around more of the West Coast, especially California, Oregon, and Washington, I'm here for it, honestly. Like, cover the whole, you know, the Pacific, you know, West Coast. I'll be here for it if they do it more often, which is great. But
Lucky.
yeah, how dare you? No, honestly, I have to say this. I feel like the West Coast this year in 2025 has been very, very lucky and blessed with wrestling events in a lot of the promotions, because I was like, normally California, especially here in Southern California, normally we don't get a lot of like the big events out here from certain companies, but in this year alone, I have gone to pretty much every single event for every major promotion, both here in the States and international. Like, went to a TNA pay-per-view, went to my first GCW show, went to a WWE PLE with Money in the Bank, and I also went to Worlds Collide. You know, Dynamite 300 and Collision 100 was down here, which I got to go to, you know, in the Young Bucks' backyard of, you know, the Rancho Cucamonga area in Ontario, California. I'm going to Survivor Series next Saturday, which is in San Diego. Like, Southern California has been very blessed, and now I'm worried that we're not going to get anything next year. But you know what? I am very happy that I got to do. Oh, and I also got to go to my first New Japan show, which was also Resurgence in California as well. So,
Hell yeah.
listen, wrestling promotions, if you're out there, please give us these things again, because like Southern California hardly ever gets these things, and like please give us more stuff. And who knows? Tony Khan's been teasing, like he was teasing, you know, during Dynamite 300. It's like, hey guys, I'm just saying, you know, we might give you another pay-per-view. I'm like, please, oh please do. But
Yeah.
all to say is, if you get a chance, go to wrestling events. They're great.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all I was gonna say was that I sometimes I forget how spoiled we are here in the Boston metropolitan area, the New England, like so that you don't realize how spoiled you are until somebody says, "Yeah, I had to drive 3 hours to go to that show."
For sure. And I mean, I still have to drive out of my way to go. Like sometimes it'll be an hour and a half or 2.5 hours, but I'm like, listen, it is worth it. But anywho, that's going to be it for us here for Ring Rats and Riot Acts. The next time Defy will be having an event will be at the end of December. So we will probably be here, post Christmas time to be doing that. But we still got a plethora of other things going on for the remainder of the weekend. Later tonight, Benny and I will be, commemorating and commencing for round 2 as we will be here for AEW Full Gear, which is upon us. And I was just like, oh my God, it's crazy. And the amount, I feel so bad for my AEW boys because they added this match. Let's make these predictions. Who we got? Like, I was like, there's so many. And we were right during our review on Tuesday. I was just like, you know what? This is a solid 7 main event card. We got 2 matches on, Tailgate Brawl. And then what happened? 2 more matches to the main card. I was like, my butt cheeks is going to be sore by the end of this, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be having a couple cups of green tea with some lemon and honey. That's for sure.
Girl, me too. And I say thankfully, I was just like, as long as it is, I am very lucky to be a West Coaster because it's going to start at 5 p.m. Pacific for me and we'll probably get done 9:30. But I feel bad for you and JVL every time we do these watch alongs. It's like y'all aren't getting to bed until like 12:30, 1 o'clock at best.
Yeah, to be fair, it's the same deal every month.
I mean, that's very, very true, which is very true. But you know what? We were very lucky with, y'all in Texas and all in Toronto because they started like at 12 p.m. and we were all able to go get dinner and lunch after. We were able to go get dinner by the time it was over. I was just like, oh, it ended at 4 o'clock. Cool. I'm gonna go get an early dinner.
Yeah, and then like people were like, oh, there's some other wrestling on tonight. Oh, is there? That's cool. I'm gonna watch a movie.
Reels is just like, oh, I'm done with wrestling. I have the whole evening to myself. But that is where we're going to be at tonight at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then tomorrow evening, the WWE crew will be here to, review Raw and SmackDown, which, you know what? As much as I have beef sometimes with the Fed, I was just like, Raw and SmackDown, y'all did the thing this week. I was thoroughly entertained. And then we will also be doing our predictions for Survivor Series too, because I was like, oh my God, that's literally next Saturday. So around this time next Saturday, I will be in a jacket, in a beanie, hopping my happy butt in the car to San Diego for Survivor Series. Listen, my goal this year, I mean, the show's going to be amazing, but I have gone and they've always ran out. I was like, my goal is to get this Penta mask. I was like, darn it.
Bandito mask on Wednesday.
Man, I was so bummed because I wanted a Bandito mask when we went to Dynamite 300 and they ran out. I was like, but I did get a Will Ospreay scar. So I was just like,
yeah, I didn't really like the design of the Bandito mask all that much. But couldn't tell if it was,
if you want to get a cool lucha mask, like you need to, there are places out there that actually legit do it. So I was just like, I'm gonna look at those because I kind of want one for the CMLL review starting in next year. Just saying. I'll send pictures to you later because there's this one wrestler in CMLL. I was just like, his whole character is like he's an Egyptian god and his mask is like similar to that of the Egyptian god Anubis. I was like, I want that. But yeah, so we will be back later this evening for our Full Gear watch along. So make sure to stay tuned to that. But from all of us here at BC WrestlePod to you, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. Again, we'll see you later tonight for Full Gear. But until then, at the end, until next time, peace.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's going to happen next time? Well, you're going to have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.